There is something beautiful about a golden naked woman lying in the sand, which is why Greta is stretched out here in the not terribly hot late afternoon sun. But she is not a golden woman looking beautiful in the sand. She's swollen from drinking gin and is blazing vermilion like the red rock around her. Her sunglasses pressure her temples, and the pajamas wadded up beside her smell like the janitorial closet of an old canasta-addicted smoker. Her hair is tangled and salty, her doughy belly an aurora borealis of 2 long, nearly unendurable pregnancies. You mothers out there know what I'm talking about. Peering through the window between lens and cheekbone, she sees that she is shaped like a crevice, like a V, and at the bottom of the V is hatred lying fallow, which is not, by definition, beautiful. In the front pocket of her army surplus pack is the whistle, wrapped up in an orange and white bandana. She takes it out, uncovers it to see that it's still real, and looks at it without touching. She takes off her sunglasses, not a glimmer. The whistle, broken in 2 pieces, is dry and inanimate. What once braced the weightless wing of an enormous bird of prey now clacks top end against bottom, protected only by bandana from her trembling hand. She doesn't know why Lance trusted her with the thing. It was given to him in an event that involved days of praying, fasting, and sweating for reasons presumably too great, too indescribable, too Indian to share with her. Maybe this oddly placed trust is why she hopes to make amends with her husband. Maybe it's why she doesn't trust him. Pneumatic, is it a word? She'll be glad to be rid of the thing, of the responsibility of it, but as yet she hasn't thought of something appropriate to say to Lance, and the detour she would hoped would inspire words is instead making her sleepy. She wraps the whistle back up and tucks it in the front pocket of her pack. She fumbles around the main cavity, 4 books, a few tampons, a stack of credit cards, both good and bust, a driver's license technically invalid, given that her neurologist refuses to declare her seizure-free at this time. Receipts, more receipts, a bra, cigarette butts, stinking up everything, a dictionary, a beat-up flip phone. No reception. She climbs an outcropping of rock. She slips, scrapes a knee and an elbow, but bleeds and finds herself oddly in range. A lizard skitters close, assesses her with push-ups. She takes a photo of it with the phone. Her daughter might forgive her if she brought home such a thing. It's worthy of any second-grade show and tell. Such delicate hands, a blush of blue spreading from underbelly to soft pulsing throat, curious half-closed eyelids. She could keep it in something for now. The console, the glove box, then buy a Cajun Moab. She lunges. She's rewarded with a discarded towel. Ice cream it is, she thinks. It's just as well. The Navajo in her daughter isn't supposed to handle reptiles. Of course, now that Lance has left her, Greta may have to reconsider the zodiac of cultural prohibitions that they sutured together between the 2 of them, and settle on which ones remain pertinent. If he doesn't return, he'll be responsible for seeing through his own. Thank you for calling Moab's own Golden Granary Pharmacy, where customers always come first. Para Español, marque uno. To order refills by phone, press 2 now. It's not like her meds will work with as much as she's been drinking anyway. A voracious bender presented itself some 5 days ago and will end, in all likelihood, this afternoon. Hopefully at a laundromat. Once Lance is in hand, or clearly not, she'll get her Delanton. At least she has her Zoloft. Just breathe now. Pneumatic. This is how it is. A word drifts from the ether into her nostrils, into her ears, permeates the membranes of her eyes, and she must look it up, given the limited pool of language a Utah railroader upbringing and 4.5 years of state college have afforded her. Pneumatic. Pneumonia? Moved or worked by. She sets her dictionary down and weaves across and around patches of cryptobiotic soil to the truck, heckling herself. She drove a couple of miles off the off-road, after all, probably over yards and yards of the fragile stuff, and now she tiptoes. One day she'll be an environmentalist in more than just theory. Maybe she'll even be a vegetarian, except she will eat fish. because fish, she is willing to believe, are too stupid to contemplate their own demise. She'll be a woman whose socks match. When they get holes in the heels, she'll throw them away and buy new socks. Thick, soft knee-highs, not the junk socks she buys at Walmart. Ha, she thinks, you won't step foot in a Walmart. Instead, she'll pontificate on the moral depravity of superstores. One day, she'll teach her kids Tulip and Braden to eat bran cereal rather than Cap'n Crunch. She'll eat bran cereal, or at least she'll make bran muffins. She'll lock her doors every night. She'll expect her children to brush their teeth not once, but twice a day. She'll brush her teeth twice a day. She'll wash her hands vigorously after every pee. And if she's divorced, she'll make serious efforts to use the term Native American instead of Indian. Unless, of course, her children bristle at her use of the words, as her in-laws always have, in which case she'll be all appeasement. One day she'll be sober, for good. For now, she yanks her laptop's power cord out of the inverter and returns with laptop and pack to the outcropping. She makes an office of a pocket of sand. The laptop burns her thighs as she types, heated by sun and inverter both. Words for later, ... Pneumatic, moved or worked by air pressure, adopted for holding or inflated with compressed air, having air-filled cavities, of or relating to the pneuma, spiritual, having a well-proportioned feminine figure, especially having a full bust. It says that for real. The whistle is Lance's pneumatic Leatherman, his tool of potentiality. It opens, it sharpens, it seals, it heals, but it's selective. It only allows good intentions to pass through it. Lance rarely uses it, but the possibility awaits him like an obedient dog. Greta wants a tool. She has a laptop and a dictionary, and they serve her well, but hers are not of the spiritual variety. Any positive renderings are arguably incidental. The idea behind the whistle is that it can make everything right, or at the very least say thanks, because that's what it was meant to do. She considers whether she's capable of saying thanks wholeheartedly with feeling. Words for later ... Occident, to fall, to set, occidental, of, relating to, or situated in the Occident. Western, a member of the Occidental peoples, a person of European ancestry. Occlude, obstruct, to come together with opposing surfaces in contact, used of teeth. Of teeth, she thinks, as in the sand grinding around between my molars? Here's proof that the laptop and the dictionary don't make everything right. Instead, the cursor and the word reveal the world to be frightening and inconclusive, and they give form to just anything. Murder, desire, self-defeat, love, infidelity. She imagines James, Lance's brother, standing on the deck of the USS Reagan, shielding his eyes from an unrelenting sun to watch inky black clouds billow into the sky from the oil fields of a foreign shore. She sets the laptop aside, lies on her back, covers her eyes with an arm. With or without words, or for that matter, blue-bellied lizards, the world is a gaseous place. To leave a message with a pharmaceutical representative, press 3 now. To contact the grocery or Super Saver Quota Lab, press 4 now. To learn more about the Golden Granary Customer Rewards Program, press 5 now. To hear pharmacy hours, words for later ... Gaseous, having the form of or being gas, also of or relating to the gases, lacking substance or solidity, gassy. Example, trick phrases and gaseous circumlocutions. Edwin Newman. Sand wafts into her nose and mouth, tasting of chalk. She rolls over for a bug's eye view. She sees just what's in front of her, but understands there's miles and miles of this stuff. In the beds of canyons, at the bases of buttes, in the holes of her ears. In a photo, the banks of sand might look like you could spray them with whipped cream and take a slice. But up close, there's nothing pure about them. Ants and spiders and snakes make trails, traversing sticks and stickers without notice, tracing S's in the sand. When she breathes in, her cheeks pressed against the warmth, The granules rub at an already sore throat. When she breathes out, dust drifts into her eyes. Her hip bones sink into the sand and her back arches till it aches. She checks her voicemail. Lance's mother, Renee, has left her 4 messages on her answering machine, telling her to stay away. Lance has a new life she need not interfere with. You leave that boy alone. He's getting a new life. He's got his way and you got yours. Greta wonders whether Renee sees their children as part of Lance's old life or his new one. She'd like to know when he crossed the line between then and now. To Greta, it is one life, her life. And the lines are made up of prejudice and accident, not time. She replays 2 saved messages from her own mother. Did you register that Hoover yet? You have to register the darn thing if you expect them to honor the warranty. I didn't buy you a vacuum just so you could break it and not get it fixed. God knows you'll break it eventually. She can't deny it. She's a breaker of small appliances, or at least an abandoner. Her last vacuum was used, her grandmother's. She couldn't figure out how to remove the bag, much less find the one the right size to replace it. The sales rep at Sears laughed at her. Wow, this old thing, I don't know. The bag ultimately became so full of sediment it exploded, and she itched for 2 days. Rather than admit she didn't have the will to eBay for antique vacuum bags, she told her mother the thing's motor died a sad death in an incident involving yarn and tacks. I guess just to mention, this vacuum bag image is where the title of the book came, The Ark and the Sediment. The Ark is the vacuum bag, and it's a metaphor for a few different things, but it sounds more clever than it is. To delete, press 7. Her mother's second message. Greta, is that you? Look, honey, there's something wrong with your voicemail. I'm just hearing noises and a beep. Are you there? Is this a trick? I'm concerned. Greta finishes off a pint of Gilby's gin and fills it with red sand, a bottle of magic sand, she tells herself, a tool with which she can appropriate herself to an ideal life. Motherhood, gainful employment, bay windows, unexpected, pleasant circumstances. Her husband is unclear to her now. She wonders whether she's ever seen him in a moment of clarity. The memory of his face seems overexposed in the harsh afternoon light, a fleshy, russet potato of a map. She sees not his parting words, but the words she's used to describe his face. Wide, elegant, thick-lipped, summoning, dividing. At times, an undershot jaw. She's been told the dark lips trace the health of liver, of heart. She sees also the words with which he has been described to her, an angry brow, accusatory eyes, a willful stride, a knowing grin. What, he wants his land back? Her uncle said once, studying a framed photo Greta had hung in the hallway. An image of a red cloud quote, scrawled on the wall of a BIA office during an AIM siege. It said, "They made us many promises, more than I can remember, but they never kept but one. They promised to take our land, and they took it." He shook his head with the force of certain cartoon characters, said, "It ain't never gonna happen, they might as well get used to it. Why they always have to walk around so pissed off all the time is beyond me. It's not like we call them savages or shoot them off a horse anymore." He pointed to a black and white Greta had taken of Lance at LA's Venice. Whenever I grabbed a dictionary, I would see the perfect word, and not only was it a perfect word, but the order of the words that surrounded it seemed, and I recognize this as just being obsessive and unreasonable, and most of me doesn't really believe this, but part of me felt like somebody had surely written the dictionary to mess with my head. Just worked out that way. And some of the passages, I do a lot to compare, as I said in the introduction, Orientalism to the state of white America versus Native America. And to do this, I used a lot of books that have been written about the so-called Orient, which, you know, doesn't really exist as such. And books that have been written by Westerners, well, and some by non-Westerners. So I use, for example, The Lover by Dura. Has anybody read The Lover or seen the movie? It's a terrific book. That's a great book, a great exercise in writing, I think. So I would I would take a passage from The Lover and project what this character would see and take some of the words out, put some of Greta's language in to see what would happen. And this is what she does in order to see the world in a different way when she's feeling stuck or like just barriers that she just can't get past. She tries to see something through somebody else's perspective or through the dictionary and strict vocabulary. It's a good exercise, and I ended up, I think, learning a lot about how to look at another culture from the outside. There's another one, I talk about Madame Butterfly, the play, and have kind of embedded in there a critique of Madame Butterfly where, there's no real good option. You wouldn't want to be Butterfly, and you wouldn't want to be any of those characters. And there's a great play called M. Butterfly, if you ever get a chance. David, how do I spell that? H-W-A-N-G. Oh, it's so good. You have to read it. And he talks a lot about the different relationships, both gender relationships and cultural relationships that are basically built into culture, where there's somebody who's dominant and somebody who is oppressed, and he kind of tries to find ways to skip around that. But and he can. I think as I said in the introduction that empathy is the thing. You might not. You won't be able to feel everything that somebody else is feeling, but if you're trying, then that's a good start. Uh-huh.
I just wondered if in the story, if you're trying to pick characters to represent cultures, or if you're trying to kind of make them just isolated individuals, and if you're trying to have to represent a culture, do you think that's cool or?
Thanks. I like that. I like that question because it was this was one of my biggest issues. I wanted to avoid stereotypes as much as possible, and I didn't want to be representative of or symbolic of an entire culture. So, for example, I might have one Native American character saying one thing, and I think, boy, that falls into a few of the parameters, of this sort of bigoted view, or not of a bigoted view of a traditional put the Indian on a pedestal, wind in his hair kind of view. So I would provide a counterpoint, another Native American with an altogether different view to make sure that they stayed individuals. My character dropped in on an LDS family on her way down. She was lost. And the father was saying some things that might sound representative. No, I don't want to do that. So I'd have the mother say something very different. And one scene that is important to me in there is when she arrives, they're quoting a passage from the Book of Mormon about Lamanites. And one daughter reads it, and she's really excited to have a visitor into her home. She's really happy, and she can't wait to talk to somebody. She feels a little isolated. She's a fun person. And actually, it's the boy, isn't it? A boy reads that passage. So there's a girl who's friendly to her, and then there's a boy who's just reading it. He's just trying to get it right so his dad doesn't get mad on him, basically. And when he reads it, the passage sounds benign and fairly, I guess, reasonable by some standards. And then another little girl reads it, and she's very hostile. She's in a bad mood. She's not feeling happy about having somebody in her space. So she reads the same passage, creates a very different meaning, because she says it was 5. And I think that you could take any given utterance, whether it's pass me the beans, you know, and it all depends on how it's said. So in race relations, we run into this a lot. Well, I only said da-da-da-da-da. But it's not necessarily what you say, it's how you say it. It's all about the context. And somebody else could say something that would sound horribly racist. And yet if it's said in a different spirit, it might be taken as joking, as let's make fun of those racists out there. You know what I mean? So context is absolutely everything.